Well, the Summer Olympics start this Friday, and some of those athletes are household names.
And Steve is asking, I thought the Olympics were for amateurs only, so why are professional golfers and basketball players allowed to compete? Here's Victor Puente with the answer to that good question.
When the modern Olympic Games were created in 1896, only amateurs were allowed to compete. They considered anyone who was paid for their performance as an athlete ineligible. In 1912, Jim Thorpe had his gold medals in the decathlon and pentathlon stripped because he was once paid for playing semi-pro baseball during his college summers. Those medals were reinstated after his death. The president of the IOC from 1952 to 1972, Avery Brundage, once said, quote, "We can only rely on the support of those who believe in the principles of fair play and sportsmanship embodied in the amateur code in our efforts to prevent the games from being used by individuals, organizations, or nations for ulterior motives." But once he was gone, that idea was pretty quickly tossed aside. There was also the suspicion that athletes from some Eastern Bloc countries were professionals in everything but name, getting paid by their governments to train and compete. In 1986, the International Olympic Committee voted to let individual sport federations decide if they wanted to allow professionals, starting with the 1988 Games. And 4 years later, in 1992, USA Basketball's Dream Team beat Croatia 117-85 to win their gold medal. Now, amateur wrestling is the only sport that doesn't allow professionals to compete in the Olympics. If you have a good question, you can email us. Goodquestion@WKYT.com. I'll see you on WKYT Mornings.